Good morning. My name is Kimberly Ez. I'm the Public Information Officer for the Orange County District Attorney's Office. We're going to get started with our press conference this morning. We have in attendance Orange County District Attorney Todd Spitzer, and then we are joined remotely by Assemblywoman Cotty Petrie-Norris, who is joining us from Sacramento. The District Attorney is going to be providing some brief comments and then turn it over to the Assemblywoman, and then the District Attorney will provide some brief closing comments, and then we'll take questions and answers via Zoom and via live media here. I'll turn it over to the District Attorney now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kimberly. So good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. And even though we're dealing with a pandemic type of event, we are broadcasting this through Facebook Live. And this is just a very, very important topic. So I want to thank everybody for joining us today. My name is Todd Spitzer. I am the District Attorney of Orange County, and I'm pleased to be joined remotely by Assemblywoman and Chairwoman Cotty Petrie-Norris. She is our Assemblywoman for Orange County, and she chairs one of the most important committees that is relevant to this event this morning, the Assembly Accountability and Administrative Review Committee. I have watched her comments regarding this EDD fraud and her role as a state legislator, and she's been fearless. And I wanted her here today because tomorrow she's having joint hearings with what we call Sub 4. Sub 4 is one of the subcommittees of the State Assembly Budget Committee. Many of you know I served for 6 years in the state legislature, and her role in doing this joint hearing tomorrow couldn't be more pertinently timed. We didn't plan it this way, but this is just fantastic. And I'll tell you the reasons why in a few moments. She has committed to getting to the bottom of this rampant unemployment fraud in California. And we have some insight about what it has done to Orange County. And just based upon what we know about Orange County, we know this is magnified throughout California, and it's completely unacceptable. I want to thank a few people before I get into my substantive comments, because when this first hit and I became aware of it, I was incredibly upset. And we had a big all-hands meeting about it, and everybody in the office stepped up immediately, and many of these people are here now. Chief Assistant District Attorney Sean Nelson, Senior Assistant Attorney, District Attorney Tracy Miller, Assistant District Attorney Leslie Young, who oversees major fraud, Deputy District Attorneys Aaron Henry and Anthony Schleiner of major fraud, and they're both here. Commander John Folo, who oversaw for the Investigative Bureau of the District Attorney's Bureau of Investigation. District Attorney, the individuals who were on the ground as lead investigators are Tim Lancaster, Todd Fresson, and James Rochford, who served as those leads, and Supervising DA Investigator Lauren Dawson and Rick Bradley, and DA Investigator Eric Tapper, as well as many investigators involved in these operations. They did a phenomenal job getting these cases to where they are today, and there's a lot more work to do on these cases and other cases that have come to our attention. I mean, this work is not over. These are ongoing investigations, but they have resulted in arrests. I want to acknowledge EDD investigator Kwok Fan. I met him. I was at the execution of the search warrant I'm going to talk about first, and I want to make this very, very clear, and it's not his fault. Kwok Fan is the investigator for EDD, and he has all of Orange County and all of San Diego under his jurisdiction as one investigator for EDD. That needs to resonate. That needs to be taken notice of today. Special Agent Eric Krause of California Department of Corrections, South Coast Fugitive Apprehension Team, Orange County, they've been invaluable. The two other cases I'm going to talk about involve the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. When I was in the legislature, I was the chairman of the special committee that oversaw all the state prisons in the state of California. I know CDCR well, and I know their dedication, and I know that the fraud that has gone on in their prison walls is deeply offensive to the men and women of the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. So I can't thank them enough. I also want to acknowledge my member organization, the California District Attorneys Association. On November 23rd, 2020, so 60 days ago, the California District Attorneys Association started their own fraud task force regarding this EDD debacle. And many of the elected district attorneys who also have prisons in their jurisdiction formed this task force. And they pointed out at the time in this letter to the governor 60 days ago that there's a serious problem. The problem that they identified in this letter 60 days ago was just the tip of the iceberg. We now know that the fraud is in the billions. They estimated it was big, but that 60-day lapse has now shown this is dramatic and in the billions. So I want to thank CDAA. And CDAA is going to be a big part of the solution because I'm one of 58 county district attorneys. And each one of us cannot be expected to get to the bottom of this on our own. And that's where the good assemblywoman and chairwoman comes in. And I'm very, very excited about hearing her plan and her vision for her hearing tomorrow. We're here this morning to announce the prosecution of 10 individuals so far who saw an opportunity to steal thousands of dollars, that's taxpayer dollars, and they took it. Not in one scheme. But today I'm going to talk about, so there's no confusion, 3 separate and completely unrelated plots to exploit loopholes in the state's unemployment system. These individuals kept taking it, and they took it over and over in these cases. And we have at least started to identify at least $500,000 amongst these cases. But one of them, the first one I'm going to talk about, was very, very substantial. And what's interesting about this first case I'm going to talk about, it's different than the kinds of cases that were initially outlined in the DA's letter. That there was a direct relation between prisoners engaged in fraud and individuals on the outside. And then what we uncovered is storefront fraud right here in the heart of Orange County. Why is this so offensive to me, and why did we jump on this immediately as a district attorney's office? I have a recent graduate at home from college and his girlfriend, and they're having a heck of a time getting jobs. This community, as we know, because of the pandemic, is under extreme peril, and everybody is working their guts out and their hearts out to try to get to the solution to this pandemic and the vaccines. And I should acknowledge the Board of Supervisors for opening up SoCA University this weekend and trying to get to 8,000 vaccinations a day in addition to Disneyland site. I will tell you this, our office has stepped up and sent volunteers to SoCA and to Disneyland through our investigative bureau and others, and that's fantastic. And I cannot thank the employees in this office. The employees of the Orange County District Attorney's Office are always stepping up during this pandemic and at all times. But why is this so upsetting? I've got kid at home, girlfriend who don't have jobs. What was the reason that the federal government pushed this money to the states in terms of public assistance for people who needed it during this pandemic? It was to help hardworking Californians who were hit hardest by COVID to be able to put food on the table, keep their lights on, and keep roofs over their heads. There was a human need for this money, a real human need. And instead, this money from our investigation, just these minimal cases that we have that I'm talking about today, went to 6 state prisoners, including 2 convicted murderers who claimed the COVID-19 pandemic had impacted their ability to work. These are prisoners in prison for murder who are claiming in sworn documents submitted to the EDD that they needed the funds because they were out of work. And in fact, these individuals are serving life sentences in prison that obviously kept them from being gainfully employed. We have 2 entrepreneurs who specifically opened up a Garden Grove storefront with the sole purpose of filing false unemployment claims with the state of California. They saw an opportunity and they took it and they exploited it. They didn't do it to help people who were down on their luck and needed a few extra dollars to get them through. They were doing it to steal the taxpayer money, and they did it to the tune of $500,000, just these 2 individuals. When we executed the search warrant on the business and several other locations tied to this case, our investigators found more than $300,000 in cash. Cash was stuffed, and you'll see the photos here. There was so much cash. It was stuffed in suit pockets, overflowing in nightstands. Thousands of dollars were crammed into a backpack. They had so much money, like drug dealers, they were running out of places to put it. And the problem is it's not their money, it's yours, and it's the federal government's. And I'm telling you, there's gonna be a day of reckoning for the state of California if we don't get to the bottom of this. Because the federal government is gonna want its money back. So we got a big problem, and we better figure out how to solve it together. The EDD has paid out $113 billion in unemployment benefits over the 10 months since COVID-19 began, including $43 billion as part of an expedited, but certainly a less protected system. And that was called the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program. Because of this, all these issues that have come to light, the state hired a contractor to identify fraud in EDD claims to try to understand the scope and the magnitude of the fraud. That entity has estimated that there's at least 10% of the unemployment claims that may have been fraudulently claimed since October. If you add that 10% extrapolation to the $9.8 billion in fraudulent EDD payments from March to September, that 10% could total $9.8 billion. We used to have an expression when I was in the state legislature. I was there, I think our budget was $100 billion. And we used to have an expression that, oh, that's just a rounding error, right? For a huge state budget. Or that's just budget dust. It's just little irresponsible accumulation. These are real numbers, and they're hurtful numbers because of the impact it's had on individuals. So that's why I'm really angry and beyond disturbed today, because of that worldwide pandemic has killed millions. We have suffered greatly as a state. We are one of the hotbed centers, not Orange County, but the county to the north, Los Angeles, but we have significant impacts here. We have forced unemployment rates that we have not seen since the Great Depression. We've seen families across America struggling to put food on their table, and now we have profiteers and entrepreneurs who have taken advantage of this unemployment system to steal money that was meant for hardworking Californians just to survive. So this is not just an Orange County problem, although I'm talking about Orange County cases today. This is a statewide problem that has cost Californian taxpayers nearly $10 billion in fake unemployment claims. For the last 2 months, every single one of the Orange County District Attorney fraud investigators have dedicated their resources to working on these cases, as well as the attorneys that, the investigators support our attorneys. And this team has been doing nothing but trying to put together these cases. That means the regular caseload we have has unfortunately been largely put off, which is not acceptable to me, because we have our everyday fraud we're responsible for prosecuting. I want to point out something too. I represent the 3rd largest county in California and the 6th in the nation. What do we do about the rural counties where DAs are responsible for the rural counties where a lot of our prisons are sited, and yet they have less than 10 prosecutors in their offices? And yet we know this is systemic throughout the prison system. How are the DAs in those counties supposed to get a handle on this immense problem? It's not fair. And it's burdensome, and I literally am standing here today telling you, I don't know, which is why I'm so thankful for the chairwoman being here today. So tomorrow, the chairwoman is having her hearing, one of several now, for the Assembly Accountability and Administrative Review Committee, and she's going to question the director of California's Employment Development Department, which administers the state unemployment benefits, and directors from Bank of America, which was the contractor for distributing the money electronically throughout the state. I've discussed this with the Assemblywoman, and we agree. Someone needs to take charge and provide the resources to recover these fraudulent gains. So let me walk you briefly through each of these cases. I'm going to start with these 2 male individuals to your right, my left. So we have Hu Duc Nguyen and May Doc Som Nguyen, And in November of 2020, the Orange County District Attorney's Office launched these investigations after we received a tip that a Garden Grove business was advertising to help individuals apply for California's Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program. This PUA provides financial assistance to workers who don't normally qualify. So they expanded the eligibility criteria and they applied it to independent contractors, gig workers, and self-employed to get them through the COVID-19 pandemic. What we found is that these two men, Duck Wynn and Dak Wynn, opened Wynn Social Services LLC, obviously LLC because they wanted the legal protection, right? In Garden Grove for the sole purpose of filing false employment claims on behalf of individuals who did not qualify for those benefits. We are alleging, and we believe we'll be able to prove beyond a reasonable doubt, that at least 1,000 or more than 1,000 fraudulent EDD applications are believed to have been filed by Wynn Social Services on behalf of individuals who did not qualify, including a 99-year-old applicant who represented through her application that she lost her work as a housekeeper because of COVID, when she hasn't worked, as you can imagine, at 99 for decades. They're accused of blatantly advertising the scheme in Vietnamese to bring people into the business in order to file false claims. And they filed applications on these individuals' behalf who did not qualify in order to get a kickback. And that's where you see all the cash, from anywhere from $200 to what we believe is about $700 per application. That was the fee that they wanted and demanded as a result of filing these false applications. On December 17th, our investigators, in conjunction with the EDD investigation, served a search warrant on that location in Garden Grove and other businesses that were related to that location, including a Garden Grove trailer. And we're going to show you a video at this time of the execution of that warrant. There's no sound, right? Yeah, so I was, well, actually you can see me. So I was there after the scene was secured, and you'll see it's just a storefront. In the back was a radio station of some sort, not related to the crime at all. But the front was specifically for this, and you'll see it looked like a normal office, but it was there, obviously, and we seized a lot of documents, which we're going through now, which obviously sustain our allegations in the petitions we have already filed and the arrest warrants that resulted in the probable cause for the arrest. But of course, as you can imagine, when you're going through this many documents, there could be additional charges. We can't represent any at this time. And I'll explain to you what we've charged Mr. Wynn and Mr. Wynn with. So they seized over $300,000 in cash. They froze bank accounts tied to the business. And all total so far, what we believe we've identified as the largesse of the crime is $490,000 relating to EDD fraud. And these individuals were arrested. May Wynn, so that's the individual on the floor here, he's been charged with 4 felony counts of perjury, 4 felony counts of false statement, 1 felony count of conspiracy to defraud another of property. Hugh Wynn, the higher picture, he has been charged with 1 felony count of perjury, 1 felony count of false statement, and 1 felony count of conspiracy to defraud another. You might ask, well, with thousands of applications, why more charges? These are the charges at this time we believe we can prove, and the investigation is ongoing. So it may change, but at this time, those are the charges we can prove today beyond a reasonable doubt. The irony about bail. So both of these men were released on 0 bail because of COVID. They exploited COVID to make money, and then they benefited from COVID by getting out on 0 bail. Talk about a twisted irony. They were released because that's the bail rules at this time, and they're scheduled to be arraigned on March 19th. And as I said, additional charges may be forthcoming. May Wynn faces 7 years and 8 months in state prison if convicted of all charges, and Hugh Wynn faces a maximum of 4 years, 8 months in state prison if convicted of all charges. So that's case one. And again, I want to emphasize, this is not the typical case that we knew about in EDD fraud. We knew about the ones I'm going to talk about, but I wanted to explore, and we did what was happening with Orange County and prisoners. And so the crimes I'm about to describe are crimes that occurred in Orange County, but facilitated with inmates that were in prisons separated out throughout California. So I'm now going to talk about People versus Sandra Pineda, Hector Jimenez, Ryan Vargas, Leonel Hernandez, and Greg Garcia. And that is the case to your left, my right. Ms. Pineda is an Anaheim tax preparer. And these forms were filled out online electronically and submitted electronically, many of them over a cell phone. So what EDD, I mean, think about it. EDD is doing everything it can to put money in people's hands who need it. That's a very important goal, and I wholeheartedly support it. But in balancing expedited delivery of benefits, there weren't systems in place to properly mete out fraud. And so they got exploited. I want to emphasize another point today. I am doing this, and I'm not trying to blame anyone or point fingers at anyone. I'm trying to say today, we've got to come up with solutions. And we've got to get this money back. That's so important. It's got to go into the hands of people who deserve it, and if there was fraud involved, it needs to go back to the taxpayer. So she is now charged, Pineda, with conspiring with 4 state prisoners, including 2 convicted murderers, to file false unemployment applications. The Orange County District Attorney's investigation, in conjunction with the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, has now revealed that Sandra Pineda, 35 years old, of Anaheim, filed an unemployment claim for a state prisoner who was sentenced to 50 years to life for murder. She claimed in the application that Leonel Hernandez, who you can see to your left, had worked 40 hours a week in the last 18 months and had an income of $45,263, but he was forced to stop work because of COVID. And it had limited his ability to perform his customary work activities, and that's a term of art that EDD looks at. He has been incarcerated in Kern Valley State Prison since February of 2010. Obviously a misrepresentation. She's also accused of conspiring to file false unemployment applications with 3 other prisoners. Greg Garcia, 29, who's been incarcerated at the Substance Abuse Treatment Facility and State Prison in Corcoran State Prison. That facility, it's in Corcoran. Ryan Vargas, 36, who's a 3rd striker, serving 64-year sentence at Kern Valley State Prison, his last sentence for assault with a firearm. And Hector Jimenez, 31, a 3rd striker, serving 23 years, 4 months in Solano State Prison for 1st-degree burglary. These prisoners are also accused of providing their personal identifying information to Pineda, the tax preparer, in order for her to file the false unemployment claims at EDD. She is then accused of using the fraudulently obtained EDD debit cards. So you can see it in the photo with the red banner next to her, just to the left of her. The debit cards that were issued by Bank of America once they got the green light and said a person should receive benefits, she then used those fraudulently obtained debit cards to withdraw thousands of dollars from ATMs. The suspects were able to obtain this money because, due to the lack of checks and balances and the lack of a cross-check with the inmate records to see who was eligible or ineligible for benefits. Thank goodness Assemblywoman Petri Norris introduced Assembly Bill 110 last month that would require the EDD to access incarceration records for the purpose of cross-checking benefit applications. And that bill was co-authored by Assembly members David Chu and Adrian Nazarian and Senator Ben Allen. Pineda, the tax preparer, was arrested by my office on January 14th of 2021. She has been charged now with 5 felony counts of perjury, 5 felony counts of making a false statement, 1 felony count of conspiracy to defraud another of property. She faces a maximum of 8 years and 8 months in state prison if she's convicted on all charges. Again, she was arrested and released on 0 bail as a result of COVID-19, so her arraignment has been pushed out until April 14th of 2021. Garcia, Hernandez, Vargas, and Jimenez, the inmates, have all been charged with 1 felony count of filing a false statement and 1 felony count of conspiracy to commit theft by false pretenses. They face, these inmates who are already in custody, they face a maximum of 7 years and 8 months in state prison if they're convicted, and Garcia faces a maximum of 3 years and 8 months if convicted on all charges. One of the issues we're gonna have to talk about is we want the money back, but if a person's serving a life sentence, what kind of resources are we gonna expend to give them additional time in state prison? I mean, that's a fair question, which is part of the reason why they engage in the fraud, because they probably realize that the consequences are not that high for them. At the same time, if we don't pursue those charges, what kind of message does it send to our state prisoners who are committing fraud from inside our prison walls? Now let me talk about, to your right, my left, people. This is the third case. All these, again, unrelated. This is the third case. People versus Rosalva Bahina, Bruno Galindo, and Guillermo Rodriguez. Rosa Bahina, 35, is a resident of Irvine. She's accused of conspiring with her brother, who's next to her in the picture, Bruno Galindo, who's currently serving 44 years to life in the High Desert State Prison for attempted murder and gang charges, and Guillermo Rodriguez, also a state prisoner, to defraud EDD of at least approximately, at this time, $50,000. Rodriguez is a third striker who's serving a 110 years to life sentence at High Desert State Prison for strangling his female neighbor to death in Fullerton. Bahina is currently on parole herself for serving time in state prison for carjacking. Bahina, Galindo, and Rodriguez are accused of filing fraudulent applications using inmate information which were processed without issue, just sailed through EDD. Bahina is accused of then using fraudulently the obtained debit cards, very much like I explained with Pineda, to withdraw thousands of dollars a week from the bank. Bahina was operating out of Orange County motels. She's on parole. She was arrested by Orange County District Attorney investigators on January 14th of this year. She's been charged with 3 felony counts of perjury, 3 felony counts of filing a false statement, 3 felony counts of money laundering derived from criminal activity, and 1 felony count of conspiracy to commit theft by false pretenses. Now, she's a little bit distinguishable because she was on parole already for carjacking. She's being held on bail of $125,000 at the Orange County Women's Jail. She has pled, she's been arraigned, right? So she's been arraigned, she's pled not guilty, and she's scheduled to be back in court on February 2nd. She faces, if we prove all the charges, 17 years and 4 months in state prison, as if she didn't learn her lesson as a parolee when she was convicted and sent to state prison on carjacking. Galindo is accused of providing personal information of other prisoners to his sister for her to file false unemployment claims. He's been charged with 3 felony counts of filing a false statement, 3 felony counts of money laundering derived from criminal activity, and 1 felony count of conspiracy to commit theft by false pretenses. He faces a maximum of 14 years in state prison if convicted of all charges. Rodriguez has been charged with 1 felony count of filing a false statement, 1 felony count of conspiracy to commit theft by false pretenses. He is facing 7 years and 4 months in state prison if convicted of all charges. I'm now going to turn it over to the good chairwoman to make her comments. I just want to sum up what I just did. It is beyond disturbing. People should be very, very, very upset and angry about what I just explained. I'm very angry and upset about what I just explained. People in state prison manipulating the system for their own personal gain after they've already, in many cases, these individuals have led a life of crime and caused horrible destruction when they were free citizens, and that's what ended up them in prison. And then we have people on the outside who are utilizing state prisoners, some of them with criminal records like Bahina, on parole, running from motel to motel, engaged in this scheme. And then 2 individuals who exploited their own community, like people who just thought, hey, maybe I could get some help during COVID, and started a storefront in the middle of Garden Grove. And thank goodness we got to the bottom of this. This is just the tip of the iceberg, which is so upsetting and frustrating. So, good woman, Assemblywoman, thank you so much for joining us and being so patient. And we're just excited to hear from you. And so at this time, I'd like to introduce the chairwoman of the Oversight Committee that's having its hearings tomorrow, Assemblywoman Petri Norris. Thank you so much.
Good morning, and thank you, District Attorney Spitzer. Like you, I am absolutely outraged about the details of the cases that you just shared today. I am outraged that criminals across the state of California have stolen some $10 billion of our money. I'm outraged as a citizen, as a taxpayer, and as a legislator. And I first want to say thank you to you, District Attorney Spitzer, and to your entire team for your determination and your dedication to bring EDD fraudsters to justice and to recover stolen taxpayer dollars. The cases that you shared with us this morning are pretty extraordinary. It is truly despicable, though I suppose not surprising, but truly despicable that in the midst of an unprecedented public health crisis, this unprecedented pandemic, when millions of Californians, our friends, our neighbors, are in desperate straits, we have these people who are devising new and elaborate schemes to exploit this crisis and steal billions of dollars from California's taxpayers. And as you said, DA Spitzer, we know this is just the tip of the iceberg. Fraudsters and criminals have stolen billions of dollars, billions of dollars. This is massive, organized fraud. And the state needs to mount a commensurately massive and organized response. We know this will demand a dedicated effort, clear ownership, and significant funding. In my oversight role as chair of the Assembly's Accountability and Administrative Review Committee, I have been pushing very hard on EDD over the last several months and will continue to do so. I'm conducting oversight hearings right now, including a hearing tomorrow morning, to understand the failures of the state's unemployment insurance system that led to such rampant fraud, so that they can be addressed and rectified, and we can ensure that this never happens again. And in addition, I want to share that my commitment to California taxpayers and to your office is that I will utilize every authority that I have as part of this oversight committee to bring the relevant stakeholders to the table, including the Attorney General's office, our network of local district attorneys, the governor's team, and my fellow legislators, in order to beef up statewide EDD fraud prosecution and enforcement, to appropriately resource these investigations and to successfully bring these criminals to justice. So very happy to take your questions today, and want to say thank you again to District Attorney Spitzer and to your entire team. We are grateful for your partnership, for your leadership, and for your service to Orange County.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for those kind words. We're very, very excited. That's probably an inappropriate word in this context, but I'm very, very excited about the progress that you can make tomorrow. And we're looking forward to some real pronouncements from EDD, the governor's office, and the state legislature. Again, you have been a phenomenal leader in this regard, and I can't thank you again for enough for participating today. So at this time, the good chairwoman and I are willing to take any questions or clarify any particular points that you might have, and Kimberly Eds will organize that.
Let me just clarify that we'll take questions via Zoom as well as live and in person because we are live streaming this through Facebook. We just ask that you speak into the microphone when you're asking your question. Thank you.
So who's kind of squaring that away? Do you have the mic? Or?
Organization when you ask a question. Thank you.
DA Spitzer, Margaret Farrow, KNX. Just hoping that you can clarify just between the three cases, the amount of fraudulent EDD unemployment benefits, was it the 500,000 or was it more than that between all three cases?
Yeah, so 390, we're like up to 490, I think on the Garden Grove case, 50,000 on the Bahena case. Do we have a number on Pineda? Okay, approximately 80,000. So we're clearly over $500,000 just in these three. But I can't say whether these prison cases are typical of what we're seeing around the state. I think they are. Summer Steffen, the DA of Sacramento, just released a press release last Thursday. I think they had some kind of $500,000. I think she put out a number. Maybe it's bigger. So I think we're seeing a similar scheme with the prison modus operandi. The reason I think this is so significant here is we're not reading about a bunch of startup companies across the state that started up a business specifically to do this. I think Orange County in that regard is probably unique today. But again, my point is we don't know and we need to know. So, but Orange County today, just three cases, we're over $500,000. I also should say, and thank you for that question, is my commitment is to get this money back to the state of California. This restitution upon the completion of our cases, it needs to be returned back to the issuing agency, and then it's going to be up to them. But my goal, and I know the California District Attorneys Association, is to get restitution for all the harmed individuals, and the particular individual in this case is the state of California and the federal government.
We'll take a question from the Zoom call. Alex Roshalko from the Epic Times is asking, the DA mentioned $10 billion in false claims for unemployment. What time period is this figure from? And is this specifically related to COVID?
Assemblywoman, do you want to address, are you familiar with what the audit has shown so far?
So yes, that $10 billion estimate is based on the pandemic era claim. So from about March of this year, March of 2020 until the end of the year, the estimate is that criminals have defrauded California to the tune of $10 billion.
I hope that answered the question. I think there's been some also extrapolations of the nationwide impact. This is not just in California. This is a nationwide problem. And I thought I heard something, Commander Follow, what'd you tell me, 36 billion?
That's correct. That just came out of our.
Yeah, but so there's an opportunity to quantify what the nationwide impact is. But California obviously is one of the biggest contributors to the fraud.
And Alex had a follow-up question. She said that you mentioned that this is just the tip of the iceberg. Can you characterize what exactly you mean by that? And are there going to be additional investigations by Orange County District Attorney's Office?
So let me break that down. Why do I say it's the tip of the iceberg? I think the Assemblywoman, Chairwoman concur. I mean, when you have this kind of fraud going on that we detected in a relatively short period of time through intensive investigation techniques, we know that there's other cases out there. And I know from my colleagues, the other elected district attorneys in the state, they have either are investigating or have already filed cases themselves in their respective counties. With respect to resources, that's one of my major messages today, and I think the Assemblywoman and I have said the same thing, and we concur. She said it's a massive fraud that needs a massive response. And so the question is, as a former state legislator, I believe that because this is a statewide problem, it needs a procedure and a remedy outlined by agencies that are part of the state of California. I can tell you with, I think, with complete accuracy that the California district attorneys, the 58 of us, we're all ready and prepared to assist whatever agency or whatever system is set up by the state to continue to go after these cases. I want to go after these cases, but I did represent unequivocally that the resources that this agency, just the Orange County DA's office that I speak for, our agency is not going to be able to pursue this under the existing platform. We don't have the investigators, we don't have the attorneys, we don't have the resources. And I wanted to find out if we had a serious problem in Orange County. We answered that question. Now the new question presented is, what is the state of California going to do to give relief to all the 58 county DAs who have stepped up, uncovered this scandal, which is what they did when they sent the letter to the governor last year, and what resources are the district attorneys going to get if the district attorneys are deemed to be the central prosecuting agencies. If, for example, another agency, the Attorney General, some other state agency, is the lead, then we'll follow in due course. We will do whatever it takes with respect to whatever plan the state of California comes up with.
And I would say we know from your investigations and from others that criminal networks in California have shifted from guns and drugs and prostitution. They've shifted to fraud. And the cases that we've already seen across the state range from international players and organized crime rings to countless individual fraud cases. So everyone from the FBI to state to our local district attorneys have been working on the cases. And I think that there is universal acknowledgement that the resources needed to tackle this across the state of California will be immense. And that's why we need to ensure that we are pushing for a statewide response and putting the appropriate financial resources behind that.
Assemblywoman, I want to thank you on behalf of the Orange County District Attorney's Office. You've been very kind to spend your precious time with us. We know how busy you are, and we're very excited about seeing the outcome of your hearing tomorrow. So thank you for joining us, and this concludes our event. Thank you so much.